Saskatchewan has been one of the top teams in the league all season long. Montreal has looked like they could be. They just couldn't stay healthy, but they are now. So a very intriguing Grey Cup is ahead with a lot of storylines. Let's take a look at some of the key talking points from this year's Canadian Football League Championship. The Grey Cup is here. It is the best time of year to be a Canadian football fan as Winnipeg plays host to this year's championship game with Montreal taking on Saskatchewan. And I think there's a lot of interesting talking points coming out of this particular matchup. For me, obviously, if you want more Canadian football content from me, it is available over at 3 Down Nation. Do a few stories there, a couple stories there each week. My focus is certainly the Saskatchewan Roughriders. And so that's where I'm going to start here. I had said here a couple of years ago that this felt like an organization that had lost touch with its fan base a little bit. I think the Chris Jones era didn't do a whole lot of favors for anyone. And it felt like since then, it was just, oh yeah, people will come in and we have an attachment because we're the Riders. And it's always that. And there wasn't necessarily that connection with the football team and with one of the more rabid fan bases in all of sport with Saskatchewan. Corey Mace understood what that relationship meant and understood what that relationship needed. And he has come in and turned things around greatly there. The football team too. Like there is a different mentality about this team. You see how they rally to the football. You see how aggressive they can be in the pass rush and going for turnovers as well. He has turned everything around in Regina and has this team on the cusp of a championship for the first time in 12 seasons. But I think that the big thing going forward is that understanding of what this team means in the market and what having that type of a fan base behind you can really mean and getting that connection there. So the turnaround has been nothing short of spectacular. And there are other players who certainly deserve a lot of the credit. I think Trevor Harris kind of bought into that as well. Micah Johnson and Jameer Thurman on the defensive side. But a lot of that stems from the head coach and kind of reestablishing that relationship with the fan base in Saskatchewan. So I think he's done a fantastic job with that as well. Tall John, the crazy watermelon head fans are next level. They certainly are. But that had kind of fallen off a little bit, right? The last couple of seasons going into the Mace tenure, Regina wasn't this very difficult place to play. The Riders weren't a very good team. It was a bit of an issue. And Mace, I think, has really reestablished that relationship with the fan base. And you heard it on Saturday evening in the West Final against the BC Lions. They got that fan base going nuts out there. And they had people really fired up. So that they've been able to get that home field advantage back. And look, Winnipeg is a whole lot closer to Regina than it is to Montreal. They're going to have home field advantage coming up in the Grey Cup on Sunday. So that relationship with the fans could pay dividends one more time. On the other side, Jason Maas is putting together a really good resume. He has been to 5 division finals. This will be his second Grey Cup as a head coach. It's with a second quarterback as well, with Cody Fajardo and now Davis Alexander. It's funny to look at the resume because he's been to 5 division finals. I think they've only hosted like 1. Like the regular season has been a bit of a stumbling block for him, but he has found his way to the division final a ton. And now he is off to the Grey Cup again. He's very well respected, I would say, as a head coach. After it didn't go great out in Edmonton, but he has kind of turned that reputation around, and now a second Grey Cup gets you in some pretty interesting conversations. So Jason Maas, I think when we're talking about like legacies and stuff like that, I think he has the opportunity to grow his the most with a victory here on Sunday. And he's doing it with a quarterback on the cusp of superstardom. Davis Alexander, the only thing between him and being thought of as one of the faces of the league is health. He wasn't able to stay healthy for a lot of this season, but when he was electric. He is fun to watch, he is very dangerous, and he's undefeated as a starter. If you can add a championship to that resume still in the early stages of his career, the sky is the limit. Like, he feels like he is on the cusp of CFL superstardom. And the league then on the cusp of an epic quarterback battle with him and Nathan Rourke going on for a really long time. So I think again, when you're looking at legacy, and it's way too early for Davis Alexander, but for here and now, looking at reputationally what this would mean for him, I think there's a lot on the line for him coming up here on Sunday out in Winnipeg. Again, tell John, talking about what the Riders do, they certainly bring the Cam Hughes energy on the field. 100% they do. Yes, yeah, that is, I've made that comparison often. Yeah, no, totally. When I first read that, I kind of had Charleston Hughes in my mind, and they kind of bring that too, that aggressiveness, but that swagger that comes on the defensive side. But all of that also ties in with one Cam Hughes. And then the last one that I'm looking at here for storylines going into this football game, a lot of them honestly on the Montreal side. For Saskatchewan, this is, I think, maybe a step further than a lot of people thought they were going to get this year. So I'm not saying they're happy to be there, because for an organization that is starved for championships, any opportunity you get to have one is a big one. But there is, because of how good they've been for a little bit, there's a little bit more, I think, storyline wise, progression wise, on the Montreal sideline that can kind of round out with a strong performance here in the Grey Cup. And I think part of that too is for Philpott. He had an unbelievable Grey Cup a couple of years ago. That kind of made him a star. Could this now be an encore that takes him to another level in talking about where he fits in with Canadian receivers and receivers in general in the CFL? I still view him as the best receiver in the Canadian Football League. Justin McInnes certainly has a lot to say about that as well. But if he has another good game against a good Saskatchewan secondary, but one that can be vulnerable at times, we're having some fun conversations around this kid as well. So I'm so excited, like I said, for this game coming up on Sunday. A little bit later on in the stream and a little bit later on in the week, podcast-wise, we're going to be talking about the X factors for this Grey Cup and hoping to get more preview stuff in, even when we're not going live for the rest of the week. But of course, you can always check out all my stuff over at 3 Down Nation. And if you want to keep up to date with everything I'm doing, and especially with the show, you can follow me on social media. I am at Primetime Klein on Twitter, Instagram, X, which is Twitter, Threads, TikTok, all of it. Just find me at Primetime Klein, which is also just kind of like the username here on YouTube if you want to find me, or Twitch and Kick over at Primetime PK.